I've always loved the isolation of the mountains, but the cabin I found online was almost too secluded. It was a beautiful stone and timber structure tucked deep into a valley where the sun seemed to set an hour earlier than everywhere else. The owner, a man with a voice like gravel, met me at the trailhead just to hand over the keys. He only gave me one rule: don't go into the guest room at the end of the hall. The floorboards are rot weak, and I haven't gotten around to fixing them.
I didn't think much of it. I was there to write, not to explore spare bedrooms. But by the second night, the silence of the woods started to feel heavy. It wasn't the kind of quiet that brings peace. It was the kind of quiet that felt like someone was holding their breath, waiting for me to notice them. It started with the scratching. At first, I thought it was just squirrels on the roof or mice in the walls, common enough for a cabin like this. But the sound was too rhythmic. It sounded like fingernails dragging slowly across dry wood, and it was always coming from the same place, the guest room. I stood in the hallway at 2 a.m., my heart hammering against my ribs. I stared at that door. There was no light coming from under the crack, but I could smell something. A faint, cloying scent of old perfume and damp earth. I told myself I was being paranoid. I went back to bed and shoved the blankets over my ears. But even then, I could feel it. A cold draft was flowing from the end of the hall, creeping across the floor like a physical hand reaching for my ankles. On the third night, I couldn't take it anymore. I hadn't slept for more than 3 hours total. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured that door. I grabbed my flashlight and walked down the hall. I expected to find the door locked, just as the owner had left it. But when I reached the end of the corridor, the door was already open by an inch. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness of the room, hitting a massive, ornate mirror leaning against the far wall. The owner had lied about the floorboards. They were solid stone. He hadn't wanted me in here because of what was in that mirror. I stepped inside. The room was freezing. So cold I could see my breath in the flashlight's glow. I walked toward the mirror, drawn by something I couldn't explain. In the reflection, I saw the room behind me, the hallway, and my own pale face. But something was wrong. In the reflection, the door behind me was closed. In the real room, it was wide open. I froze. I watched my reflection's eyes. They didn't move when I moved. My reflection stayed perfectly still, staring at me with a look of pure, predatory hunger. Then, the version of me in the mirror slowly raised a finger to its lips, whispering a shh that I didn't just hear. I felt it vibrate in my own chest. Behind my reflection, a pair of pale, elongated hands emerged from the darkness of the mirrored hallway and wrapped around my reflection's throat. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I dropped the flashlight and bolted. I didn't grab my bags, and I didn't lock the front door. I ran until I hit the main road, my lungs screaming in the mountain air. As I drove away, I looked in my rearview mirror. Just for a second, I saw the cabin, standing dark against the trees. And there, in the upstairs window, I saw myself. I was standing perfectly still, watching my car disappear into the night. If you ever find a cabin with a room you're not supposed to enter, believe the owner. Some doors aren't meant to be opened, and some reflections aren't meant to be yours.